And terribly unfortunate at this moment of such solemnity, the observance of the Hiroshima.
No. That's the observance of the Jewish New Year.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
Forgive me. The observance of my Sharona. I knew that.
No, that's not even close.
Rush, your mama?
No.
The maniacal ebb and flow of Imus's show actually depends on a tide of characters and voices. Each day after his program, Imus sits down with a band of stand-up comics to produce comedy bits that'll pepper his show later in the week.
All right, let's do this. Come on, you guys.
Okay.
Here now some of the headline stories we're following for you.
I'm Walter Cronkite.
I'm David Brinkley.
And I'm Diane Sawyer. Hello, Mr. President. How are we?
Just fine, Diane.
Before I move into my initial question, may I ask you, please, how's my hair?
Well,
Submitted for your approval. Donald Trump, real estate magnate, development tycoon, billionaire, human doormat. And so Donald Trump discovers that not unlike
No. He has entered the Imus zone. Then you need that cut.
When did you start insulting people on the radio?
Is that like a trick question?
No.
No, I don't.
Just a real question.
I haven't ever insulted anybody.
No, I know, but, well, that's just, it's a hypothetical, obviously. But just assuming that you might have insulted
You're going to
somebody. When did that
characterize it
begin?
as insulting. I'm going to frame it with saying humorous things about reveling in others' agony.
And he's been reveling since he got his first radio job in California in 1968, followed by WGAR in Cleveland. Then in 1971, he hit the big time in the Big Apple. WNBC gave Imus his own show at Rockefeller Center, and the sound of morning radio would never be the same.
Imus says the Reverend Billy Saul Harkness. Friends, you have made 66 WNBC, New York's #1 radio station.
Imus filled the air with a host of demented characters that would become his trademark. In 1972, Life magazine proclaimed Imus the country's most outrageous disc jockey. He was on top of the world, but the bottom was about to drop out.
He'd come into the station, boozed up.
Sometimes, sure. I mean, many mornings I'd be sitting there with a 16-ounce thing of vodka. I'd put a little grapefruit juice on it just to color it, just to get through the morning. It was tough.
I read somewhere 100 days, you missed
Yeah.
100 days of work in 1973.
I mean, I was in radio a little over 2 years, and I went from making $80 a week to making 6 figures, 6 figures. I was just very arrogant. I think a lot of that came from just being very insecure.
He would have reason to be. In 1977, he was fired, exiled, as he says, back to Cleveland.
Here you were in the #1 radio market in the country. Suddenly you find yourself back in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Were you humiliated?
Yeah. I was the big guy. I was the guy. I mean, I was the guy in radio.
And he would be again. In 1979, WNBC rehired Imus to jumpstart their sagging ratings. He was back on top, only to stumble again, tripped up by a voracious cocaine habit. His longtime chauffeur, Brant Eaton, watched the fall.
During those days, did you think that this is a man who's going to self-destruct?
I didn't really know.
Though dazed and drugged, Imus tried to keep up appearances, but his mask was cracking.
What was the bottom of the barrel for you?
July 17th, 1987 was the worst day I ever had in my life.
It was the last day of a 9-day booze binge.
And I was just in horrible shape. I mean, I was shaking and I couldn't. I weighed 152 pounds. And I looked at myself in the mirror and said, this is insanity.
1 month in a rehab center, and 4 years later, Imus is still on a treadmill, but he's traded compulsions. Fanatic about his health, he now runs 6 days a week, at home in his Manhattan apartment or on the road. The mouth that roared was back.
Well, now everybody in New York hates Trump.
You got that right.
So, I mean, we're talking about basically a fat, puffy sissy boy.
Sure.
Any hope that Don Imus might eventually run out of people and places to skewer was probably shattered forever this past spring, when he moved here to Southport, Connecticut, and bought a weekend home just up the road. Now, Southport is a town of old money, upper crust values, and exclusive clubs. In other words, the perfect target for a pit bull named Imus.
Imus rolled into town last January with his Rolls Royce and his own idea of a good neighbor policy. Imus has now made Southport fair game on his show. In fact, on anyone's show.
And I get a place right on the water, and up the road is the Pequot Yacht Club.
All right.
Now, this is a yacht club that wouldn't admit Phil Donahue. And, I mean, would you?
No.
I mean, he's fine. But nobody wants Marlowe down there screaming it to help.
Yeah.
No, you don't want that. So I think I'm their kind of guy. I'm willing to wear clothes with fish on them.
Yeah.
Thistle Hawkins had been peacefully living in Southport for 20 years until Mr. Imus moved in right next door.
You know, he said some pretty rough stuff about you folks.
Yeah.
He's called you white trash trailer park people.
Mm-hmm.
You called her a witch.
Yeah, I also called her an amorphous old bag. But I'm not proud of that, you know. But she said hideous, hurtful things about me.
How long do you think it'll take before Mr. Imus becomes really part of this community?
At
the rate he's going.
I'd say about 100 years.
She looks like somebody who could just brutalize you.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. She started it.
But of course, Imus will finish it.
Okay, on the phone now, one of my neighbors up in Southport, Thistle Hawkins. Good morning, Thistle.
Hey, Bannerneck.
He's already added a bogus Thistle Hawkins to his morning cast of characters. In case you haven't heard, Don Imus always gets the last word.
You know, this is it, by the way. There doesn't go any deeper. In the essence of Imus, this is it.
Sure.
This is not an act. No, this is it.
Primetime will continue in a moment.